Hey, Steelers Nation. What's up, family? You already know the mission. This team is doing everything in its power to get better. Every move, every rumor, every draft visit. It's all about one thing, bringing a Super Bowl back to Pittsburgh. And here at the channel, we're grinding just as hard to keep you locked in with the most exclusive, real-deal updates. So before we jump into this huge quarterback development, do me a favor, smash that like button to show some love and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a second of Steelers news. All right, let's dive in. Aaron Rodgers has finally broken his silence. And let me tell you, what he said has Steelers Nation buzzing for all the wrong reasons. On the Pat McAfee show, Rodgers talked about his future for the first time since free agency kicked off. But instead of providing clarity, all he did was stir the pot. The 41-year-old mentioned that people in his inner circle are going through personal issues and said he's had good conversations with teams, but never confirmed if he's leaning toward retirement or making a comeback. He didn't even specifically mention the Steelers. So here's the real question. Is Rodgers still in play for Pittsburgh? Well, according to Andrew Filipponi from 93.7 The Fan, the Steelers are still optimistic. Mike Tomlin reportedly believes he can win a Super Bowl with Rodgers under center. That belief is what's kept Pittsburgh in the mix, even while other voices around the league are warning the team to move on. One former NFL general manager flat out said Rodgers' vague comments should be a red flag. But considering that Mason Rudolph is the only other name in the quarterback room right now, it's no surprise the Steelers haven't slammed the door on Rodgers just yet. Now here's where things get real spicy, Steelers fans. NFL insider Tom Pelissero dropped a huge nugget on the Rich Eisen show. He said if the Atlanta Falcons get reasonable with their demands, Pittsburgh could make a serious move for, get this, Kirk Cousins. Let that sink in. Cousins hasn't been part of the big Pittsburgh rumor mill lately. But Pelissero thinks he's a legitimate plan B if Rodgers drags this thing out or decides to hang it up. And here's why it makes a lot of sense. The Falcons signed Cousins to a massive 4-year, $180 million contract last offseason, only to shock the world by drafting Michael Penix Jr. with the 8th overall pick. That move alone suggests Atlanta may already be planning to pass the torch. And if Cousins truly wants to be a starter in 2025, Pittsburgh could be the perfect landing spot. The question is, would the Falcons actually move him? And if so, what would they ask in return? Let's take a closer look. Cousins is 36 years old. Not young, but not washed either. He's coming off a major injury, but has shown he can still play at a high level. Plus, his age actually lines up with what the Steelers reportedly want. A short-term veteran QB while they groom their long-term guy from the draft. So let's say Rodgers retires, or just keeps dragging his feet. Cousins steps in, runs the offense for a season or two, and the team uses one of the next 2 drafts to find their future franchise QB. That's a realistic, stable bridge plan. But here's the challenge. The contract. That $180 million deal is massive, and any team trading for Cousins would be taking on a big chunk of it. That's why Pelissero stressed that the Falcons would have to be reasonable with their asking price. No one's giving up a first-rounder for a 36-year-old QB on a monster contract. If the price is right, Pittsburgh might bite, but if not, they'll wait. Now here's where things get tricky. The NFL draft is literally days away, and if Rodgers still hasn't made up his mind by then, Pittsburgh's entire QB strategy gets complicated. Do they draft a quarterback early just in case, or do they hold out hope Rodgers or Cousins becomes available afterward? It's a dangerous game of musical chairs, and nobody wants to be left standing when the music stops. That's why some believe Pittsburgh is quietly keeping Cousins in their back pocket. If Rodgers ghosts them, and no QB worth a first-round pick is sitting there at 20 or 32, Cousins could become the emergency lifeline. But again, nothing is expected to happen with Cousins before the draft. He's likely going to wait and see how the QB dominoes fall, especially with Penix Jr. waiting in the wings in Atlanta. Last year, the Steelers made a bold move. They brought in 2 quarterbacks who were basically considered washed by the rest of the league, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. At the time, people thought Pittsburgh had lost its mind. But what happened? The gamble worked out. Both quarterbacks played well enough that they ended up getting starting gigs, Wilson with the New York Giants and Fields with the New York Jets. Now fast forward to today. Both of those guys are gone. All that's left in the quarterback room in Pittsburgh is Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. Let's be real, that's not a duo you build a championship run around. So now, with the Aaron Rodgers saga growing colder by the day, the last hope for the Steelers to find a legitimate starting QB seems to be the 2025 NFL Draft. Sounds simple, right? Draft your guy, build around him, move forward. Well, not so fast. NFL insider Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk dropped a major warning during his April 18th appearance on the show. He thinks the Steelers might be setting themselves up for a massive disappointment, especially if another team like the Los Angeles Rams jumps ahead of them in the draft order. Florio specifically called out the Rams as a sleeper team to watch. Here's what he said. We know they're on a year-to-year arrangement with Matthew Stafford. As we all are, he's getting older every year, he continued. At some point, it's not going to get worked out when they have a sit-down. At some point when he sits down, they're going to tell him, within the first 10 minutes, we're moving in a different direction. And here's the real kicker. I want to know whether or not they are waiting and watching and trying to maybe pop up a couple spots to get that guy they want. Because the Browns or the Giants could be trading back into the bottom of round 1. Translation, if the Rams get aggressive and leapfrog the Steelers, who are currently sitting at 21st overall, it could completely blow up Pittsburgh's plan to draft a quarterback. So who's the guy the Steelers are reportedly targeting? A lot of mock drafts and some internal buzz have pointed to Jackson Dart. The Ole Miss quarterback has all the tools, a strong arm, good mobility, and that fearless playmaker mentality Mike Tomlin loves. Dart has been widely projected to go late in the first round, and the Steelers seemed perfectly positioned to grab him at 21. But now, if the Rams, or another QB-needy team like the Broncos or Seahawks, decide to trade up, Dart might not even be available when Pittsburgh's on the clock. And here's the nightmare scenario. If Dart goes off the board early, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and Jackson Dart, the 3 top names most linked to Pittsburgh, could all be gone. That would leave the Steelers with no top-tier quarterback options, no clear veteran safety net, and no second-round pick to make a quick recovery. Here's where things get dangerous. If Pittsburgh gets jumped and loses out on Dart or Sanders, they'll be faced with 2 unattractive options. Reach on a quarterback, who isn't worth a first-round pick just to fill the position. Take the best player available, likely a defensive player, and punt the QB decision to later rounds. Both options come with risk. Reaching on a QB could turn into a draft bust disaster. And waiting means putting full faith in guys like Mason Rudolph to carry the season, while hoping to strike gold on a day 2 or day 3 quarterback, something that rarely works out. And remember, without a second-round pick, that next QB opportunity might not come until the 3rd round. This is exactly why Mike Florio's warning has Steelers fans worried. All it takes is one aggressive team, like the Rams, to throw everything off. So what does all this mean for you, Steelers Nation? First, get ready. This quarterback situation is far from settled. Rodgers has kept this team in limbo for weeks. And while optimism remains in the building, there's a growing sense that Pittsburgh is being forced to prepare for other outcomes. Second, keep an eye on Kirk Cousins. He may not be the flashy name that gets headlines like Rodgers, but he's a solid, proven starter who could fit Pittsburgh's short-term blueprint perfectly. And third, don't be surprised if the Steelers draft a quarterback regardless of what happens. The front office knows this is a long-term play. Whether it's Rodgers, Cousins, or someone else, they're looking for a future face of the franchise. All right, Steelers fans, now it's your turn. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you be okay with Kirk Cousins leading this team in 2025 if Rodgers doesn't sign? Or do you think Pittsburgh should go all in on drafting a quarterback instead? Drop your thoughts down below, and don't forget to hit that like button if you want to see more exclusive updates like this one. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're bringing you the truth about your Steelers every single day. This QB saga isn't over, not even close, so stay locked in. And as always, here we go, Steelers.